that too. I don't know if you can do that actually while you're
a minute. You might be able to see. Where are you sharing it, my lovely?
I'm about to share it on Facebook, on the other groups.
Okay.
But first, we need to make ourselves active.
Are you going to tag me in it so it will come up on my feed?
Yep, I will. Let me just put us live.
Okay,
here we go. Here we go. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome, welcome. We're doing a audio test here. Can everyone hear us okay? And I'm just going to share this. I'm going to share this with the group. Come join us. And I'll tag you, Savannah.
Awesome.
And we'll wait a few minutes to let everyone join and come have a party with us today. Because we're both so I'm so energized right now. Like,
me too. I'm so excited about this.
I can't even sit still on this chair. Like, I want to get on my trampoline, Savannah.
Don't leave us, Teany.
I know. I'll try not to. You guys can come trampoline with me anytime. You guys know, for those of you who know me, I love to trampoline. So, what'd you say, Savannah?
I said, well, maybe we should try that sometime.
I know. I should do a live broadcast with that. Oh my God, that would be so much fun.
Trampolining. Yeah.
All right, so let me just continue to post this, and I tagged you, and I think we are ready to go. All right, so welcome. Welcome. If I'm talking a little bit fast, just let me know. Because I just can't contain myself. I'm so hyped. Welcome, everyone. Oh my God, on the heels of such a freaking fantastic, amazing, like enlightening and just trend-setting, hopefully, Golden Globe Awards where fantastic women, here, they were honored and they were honoring each other. It's such a privilege to be here with you guys today and here with you, the lovely Savannah. Oh my gosh, well, what do you think about this? What happened yesterday?
I know, right? First of all, I'm so grateful to be here having this conversation with you, Teany, and with everybody else here as well, because I feel like I'm blown away by the timing of all of this. Because for Teany and I, we'd arranged this like at the tail end of last year. We'd picked the date. This topic about women, supporting women, lifting each other up has really been a passion project for us for quite a long while. And I personally we feel that this is a key part of what can change the state of our world at the moment, where ladies support each other and lift each other up. So seeing it last night in action at the Golden Globes was just spine-chillingly amazing.
Incredible. It was just incredible. All right, so let me just really quickly just show our names.
Thanks, Teany.
Let's get started here. So hello, Facebook community. I am Teany Hidalgo, and I'm here with the lovely Savannah Alalia. And today's topic of the day, which again is on the heels of this amazing event that just happened yesterday, is all about feminine support and how it's changing and why you need it absolutely right now. We'll discuss how to shift the way you connect with women in your life and, how to provide support without the usual judgment, comparison, the jealousy that we see, and also why leadership and camaraderie in this area is incredibly needed right now. And so we'll get into a little bit of the media fanfare. I mean, we kind of started talking about it already, but all the fanfare and media, content that's been out there lately, really trending these days about female empowerment. And, we've been seeing so much of it these days. So for a long time, women have been just so amazing at forming these communities with other people. But it kind of seems like we've missed the ball with each other. And it's really just time to connect and reinforce these innate abilities to form these connections in these communities by igniting it with ourselves and with other women. And the Golden Globes was a perfect example of the beginning of such a trend, right? So let's start. Yes. So let's start with a question for everyone online, just to get a baseline. For those of you who are online who can join us, how many of you have, truly been honored by the women in your life? And how many of you very strong women, or how many of you have strong women you can relate to now in your lives? And then how many of you have actually supported other women and have them support you? Like, that's really the questions that we're talking about right now.
I love these questions so much, and I'm so grateful to be able to say yes to them. But that wasn't the case in the earlier years of my life. And so I'm gonna leap right into a little bit of a story, hopefully that everyone can relate to. And if you can, after you finished answering the questions, do just type yes in the comments below. If you can relate to what I'm about to talk about. So for a long time, for me personally, I actually found that talking to men was way more comfortable than speaking to women. So I'd grown up with two younger brothers, and conversations with men actually just felt way more straightforward. My experience of women at that time when I was younger was that they could be catty or bitchy or over dramatize. And again, type yes if you can relate to this.
Yes.
Because do you know women in your life? Like, one of the questions I think about with this is, like, in the earlier years, do you know women in your life that make everything way more dramatic than it needs to be? They spend more time complaining about things and people rather than connecting with or communicating around creating a solution. And you hear phrases like, oh, she did this, or she said that to me, or about me. And it's like this time-consuming habit that so many women adopt. But I feel that there really is a reason for why women focus on the little details of the emotion. And that's, I feel, because as women, we are way more responsive and receptive to our environment, much more so than men. And there's actually been some psychological research that's been done that backs this up. And women are actually most sensitive during specific days in their monthly cycle. So there's biology to this, but it's also why we are so highly intuitive. And as women, we can, unless shown, struggle with how to process all the information that we're tuning into that's all around us all of the time. So what can happen is we end up giving our power away in the situation. And as a result, a lot of women are kind of taught to compete or attack with each other because we've gone into this highly sensitized space and we don't know how to digest it. So I'm going to touch into that more in a moment, but I want to talk to you about something that happened to me when I was a kid. It's a story of mine, and anyway, let me just lead into it. That's the best thing. Yep. And we will come back to this sensitivity with women. So I began to see this even from an early stage. So like in the playground at school, and you can again type yes if you have experiences from when you were young and girls maybe would compete with you or put you down at school. I did a fair bit of extracurricular activities, I guess, outside of school. So like I used to ice skate, and eventually I ended up ice skating for Britain. And I did this ages of like 12 and 15, I think. So it was only like 3 years that I was doing it, but I was doing it fairly competitively, I guess. It was super fun and it was cool. But did anybody at school know what I was doing? Not really, because when I very first started doing it, I noticed that if I shared anything of what I was up to or mentioned what I'd been doing, I'd be attacked, or I'd be like pulled down, or I'd be told I'd be trying to put attention on myself rather than what I was actually doing, which was basically answering the question. If somebody had said to me, oh, what did you do over your break, over your half term? I'd just say, well, I was ice skating. And so I learned to stop sharing what I was up to. The girls I went to school with, many of them are amazing people. But from an early age, women are encouraged to compete. And if you're a woman, you know what I mean, and you can type yes in the comments. And And I know, Teany, you have a lot of similar stories of many women you know. We've spoken a lot about it through women, through coaching and chatting generally. You know, people that we've coached, and we hear these all of the time. And there's no fault here. It's just a bit of an epidemic, because our natural tendencies as women it has been to become muted and manipulated. And the question is, how can we reclaim our power? How can we reclaim that sensitivity in an empowered way? And if you have any similar stories, again, please feel free to share about your stories where you've had women maybe compete with you in the comments below, and we will go through this afterwards. So if you're not able to watch this live and you're catching up with this a little bit later on, then, you know, just share some of your stories underneath. Teany and I will you know, keep a lookout, and would love to hear from you about what you've been experiencing. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, and both Teany and myself have met and learnt from lots of women who no longer compete, but instead lift other women up. And thankfully, it does exist. But let's look at why it's so rare in the world. And I'm hoping, especially with what we just witnessed at the Golden Globes, it's going to be less and less a rarity, because we are really, you know, we are really being encouraged now by other empowered and powerful women to really honor each other. However, basically, when we look back at our society, and if we look back at the media over the last 50 years, it's become more and more visual. Media generally has become more and more visual. So like 100 years ago, it was probably mainly like newspapers and books, most of which wouldn't have had pictures, for example. So because the media over the last 50 years has become more and more visual, it's fed the feeling of women today feeling intimidated by one another. Oh, this is exciting. Sorry, just having a look at the comments that are coming in. I'm distracted. I'm going to focus on what I'm doing. Today, you know, we have been so intimidated by other women in the media, and we've ended up competing, feeling inferior, or feeling like there's a loss in the presence when we're around other women. Yep. So feelings that actually end up locking our softness and our femininity and our vulnerability inside, rather than opening us up. And it means that we become harder, tougher, and less feminine. And the media supports and encourages this warped version of yourself, and tries to suggest things that you can do or buy that will have you looking better than you did like 20 minutes ago by wearing a certain outfit, or using a certain product, or hanging out in a particular place. And media and advertising has hacked into this sensitivity that I spoke about a moment ago, this natural feminine tendency to self-nurture and care for yourself. And it's hooked us ladies into leading from our insecurities, rather than lifting each other up and encouraging nourishment in the form of self-nurture and self-care. So some uncomfortable but honest questions that we want to ask today are: why are women being led from a lack mentality and manipulated through images that make you feel less, rather than inspiring you to lead from your natural inner wisdom and intuition? And why are we being encouraged to push away from one another, rather than to honor and lift each other up? And it's exactly what we saw last night, where this is beginning to happen. So if you have any immediate gut feelings or thoughts about this, again, please feel free to share and post. This is a conversation. This is, you know, us sharing our feelings, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your feelings and your thoughts about the situation. So please feel free to comment.
Yeah. So I'll read the comment that was just posted.
Thank you, my lovely.
She said, "Hi, I think that is why even in the workplace, from other abilities is a perception that many fear. So, and that's really common, right?
For sure.
Promote themselves in the work. It's almost like we can background a little bit. And, you know, we want to explore these questions and have you guys share your thoughts and feelings on the subject too, right? Can you guys hear me okay? I'm hearing a little bit of feedback.
I can hear you okay. There's a little bit of breakup, but I think we're good.
Okay. So when women speak to other women and, you know, we stay open and support each other, there's actually something interesting that happens. And I think you started talking about this sort of like a, you know, a physiological sort of scientific aspect of this whole concept of us really connecting with each other. And it's funny because I've been talking about it and about the brain and how we want to use like our bodies and our brains to support the things that we want to do. And this is a perfect example of that. So in this example, you know, the neural pathways of our brain when we're connecting like this can actually fire up. So they fire and like light up and connect us to all the aspects of our, you know, the other parts of our brains. And it's interesting because it seems to be overlooked, but it's so incredibly important, right? And there's tons of research on this. You know, cells that fire together, wire together. If you're connecting with your people, then you're constantly firing those cells in your brain. And that continuously connects you to happy feelings and happy thoughts. And you want to keep doing that, right? So please do check, you know, all the resources on this because this is super interesting. And, you know, so the more interaction we have, the better. And the more often we end up doing it because it's already starting to wire in our brains, right? And foster, you know, these more positive relationships. And it's sort of like a circle, right? Of like positive, wired, and it continues to go on. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, ladies, men even as well, that the more you pay attention to certain people in your life, the more they end up participating in your life and vice versa. So if I started talking to someone, this happened to me a couple of times. I don't know if you can relate, Savannah. I started randomly like, oh, I saw someone's friend Facebook post that I hadn't seen in a while. I started talking to them. And even Facebook does this, right? They have a whole algorithm for this. If you start talking to one, you'll see more posts of theirs. But then suddenly you're talking to them more. And maybe they're texting you. And maybe now they're emailing you. And maybe you have a phone call or you go out and you have a lunch or a coffee or a tea or whatever. So this actually does happen and it's proven and it's scientific and it's not just Facebook algorithms, it's actual brain, you know, neurology. So it actually is happening. And, you know, women have the gift of being able to connect and see the depths of the person in front of them. This is something that we have a gift and we should use it more often and continue to fire those neural networks in our brain, right? To care, to be kind, to see that vulnerability in others, to tenderly cradle that and nurture what needs to be nurtured. I love that word, nurture. You know, it's such a empowering, loving term. And this is the power of the feminine in a healthy action, right? And yet often we're being discouraged from being authentic women. And so our capacity to care is being warped or only allowed in certain small ways where it's deemed appropriate, right? Because like at work, we have to be a certain way. At home, we can do, you know, the other way, right? So we have to kind of split ourselves sometimes. I'll just note one comment here. We also got another comment that says, I think it's the social norm. Women were always in competition for marriage, marrying into the right family, getting chosen by men, then for positions and so forth. We made each other the enemy. There is a mentality shift necessary. Your accomplishments do not make me less accomplished. I should be able to celebrate you without feeling like, why not me? Yeah, and that's also like a lack mentality too, right? Like there's a couple of other things happening too, because the more you think there's only a certain amount of success that's available in the world, the more there's less success for you, right? So it's kind of it's a combination of how women think of each other and interact with each other and also the lack, right? So Savannah, go ahead.
Totally, yeah, I completely agree with that, and that idea of getting stuck in that lack mentality, I think makes everyone lose, actually. And as women, we're naturally wired to want to create win-win-win situations, so it goes against our very nature. And we know, we kind of know, I think, especially when there's competition going on, or when we're competing against other women or whatever, we know there's something not right. We know it doesn't feel good. And this is also why, what we're talking about today is so important, because knowing something is a great start, but looking at how you can make those changes and what you need to do to make those changes, that's really what, where we need to go from here. And it seems like we've forgotten, and we rarely seek out, or at least in the past, I would say this, for myself at least, but we would rarely seek out like-minded females who we can co-create like a sisterhood with, where we can hold space, where we can lift each other up, where we can honor each other, where we can explore ourselves, learn our bodies, because I think that's really quite key in understanding how to be female in an empowered way, and learning to listen to what's happening inside of ourselves, and to trust our intuition and our authentic feminine power. And what I've actually started to call a warped nurture hook, which is what I described a moment ago, where our natural tendencies to nurture has been manipulated and reinforced by the media, or an outside source. This kind of warped nurture hook pulls us away from that natural disposition to care for ourselves and to honor others. And I remember all a warped, got tongue twister here. All a warped nurture hook really is that seed of self-doubt, and learning to prioritize others and their opinions over yourself. And I remember when I was a kid, the first time this really kind of came up for me, I was about 7 years old. I was playing in the park. I was a quite naturally open kid. I was chatty, playful. I'd always say hey to the kids from school if I saw them at the park over the weekend. And I was playing in this really large, shallow pool at the park. It was a lovely sunny day. And I was kind of waded in up to my knees or something like that, and just sort of wandering around. And I saw two boys from school, one of whom I knew quite well. There's one guy called Andrew who I knew, and he was on my table in my class. So I knew him quite well. And then I recognized his friend Rupert, but I hadn't met him. So I was really happy to see Andrew, because it was always quite fun whenever we chat at school. And so I went over to them. And what happened next really was unexpected and shocked me. Andrew turned around to Rupert and said, "Don't you think she's really beautiful?" And Rupert looked at Andrew and said, "No, I think she's really ugly." And I was stunned and slightly I felt like my brain went, I couldn't grasp how I could be both of those things in one moment. And I remember actually going home and sitting in front of the mirror for 45 minutes to just try and understand what they even meant by what's beautiful or what's ugly. And it's the first time in my life I was confused about who I was, and that somebody else's opinion outside of me could impact me in that way. And that is what I call a warped nurture hook, when something outside of yourself informs you of who you should be or what you are, when actually you're not listening to something that's innate inside of you. And I learned to doubt that inner voice when I was younger, first of all from that situation, and then I watched my mother, who I love and adore, but pour herself out, as so many mothers do, for everybody else's needs, again not nurturing herself and ignoring that little voice inside of her own head, and not stopping, and subsequently, actually, bless her, becoming very unwell. So I learned and I witnessed the cost of what happens when women give, even when there is nothing left to give, in a way that's unhealthy for us. We are the nurturers, and so we need to nurture the deepest of anybody. It's so easy to believe that exhausting ourselves for others is a good idea. And trust me, I actually believe it's possibly the worst idea we could have as women. And I say that not as a mother myself, but having worked with thousands and thousands of female clients all over the world over a 20-year period, and witnessing what happens when that is not there. And as women, when we don't listen to our feelings, whether they're feelings or intuitions, thoughts or anxiety, that's when we end up making mistakes, and that's when we end up compromising ourselves and not using our innate wisdom and intuition. Now, thankfully, I became obsessed from a very early age of leading from intuition, and those experiences, that obsession, allowed me to be able to share and coach from personal experience. As I said, thousands of women worldwide. But at that time, when I was younger, when I was witnessing my mother, pouring herself out, or when those two boys had that conversation about me, I felt very raw. I felt really lost. And I know I'm not the only person who's had these experiences either. I'm just sharing these stories as something, you know, that you can connect with. And I think that it's really a gift what can happen for us when we have those experiences, and then we learn to listen to what's coming from inside of us rather than waiting for an outside information to go, yes, you can do this, or no, you shouldn't do this, or this is what you should do next. Anyway, over to you, Teany.
No, it's really interesting because we're sort of taught through our lives to trust the external situation, the environment, you know, and we're never really taught to really trust our own gut and our own intuition. It's kind of an interesting separation that has happened over all these years, right? So, I mean, those are amazing examples. And we've spoken a little bit about, actually a lot of it, a lot about how society influences us, and even the male influence, you know, similar to what happened to you. And we've discussed a little bit about this in the past. So check out, you know, the Embracing Our Shades of Power, Masculine, Feminine, and the Merger that we've posted in the past. And I'll provide a link for you guys after the session. But yes, there's so much out there that tells us not to trust what is so incredibly innate in ourselves, right? And so it's super, super duper important to return to self and to this innate intuition and the power behind this to help us lead in our own lives. And there are so many examples of that. And you've mentioned a couple already for intuition, in terms of there's large and small ways that we see examples of this. So from getting like, you know, a feeling about someone, and I know everyone has experienced that, like, oh, I don't know if I trust this person, or this person feels uncomfortable, or I love this person, completely connected to this person immediately, right away, like I've known this person for years, right? So there's the gamut of that. And then like things like knowing when to get away from a dangerous situation. You know, there's just big and small ways that we've experienced that. So Savannah and I, you and I have spoken about so many of these examples, and actually I feel like it's happening more and more. And hopefully this is the year that people really start to embrace these subtle, but maybe they won't be so subtle anymore, you know, because once we start, again, focusing on these things, they're bound to show up more in our lives, and we're bound to sort of pay attention more to them, because what happens is that we're not paying attention to them right now. So it's amazing that it's often that these things lead us to sort of opening ourselves up when we really learn to trust this intuition. And they even heal us in ways that we never imagined. And I just want to give an example of a client who had a very interesting intuitive story. And, you know, she had experienced an intuitive dream that led to a series of related events in her life the very next day that helped her bring closure and a big healing into her life. And the dream was about an ex that she dated in college, that in the dream, you know, it brought up some old history about which allowed her actually to eventually forgive herself and change her perspective on relationships as a whole. But she basically woke up feeling like she needed to contact him after this dream. And that same day after she experienced this dream, she had another college friend who had actually ended up causing issues in that relationship contact her over Facebook and ask to be her friend. So it was just a really crazy synchronicity that after this dream with her ex, and then, you know, this guy who'd caused problems with that particular ex contacted her to be her friend. So, and that person her ex she hadn't spoken to in like 3 or 4 years, but that other person had been like at least 20 years since college, right? That she hadn't spoken to him. So it's almost like that Facebook request was the sign that she needed. So she made the decision to release the story in her mind and her spirit, and basically forgive herself and them for her, you know, in that relationship. And she declined the Facebook request. So she really kind of made peace with her ex by emailing him to ask him for forgiveness. And it's kind of interesting because he was completely open and in fact asked her to forgive him. And then they just ended up becoming friends again. So it was just a perfect example of like a synchronistic dream that turned into a series of events where she really had to trust her intuition and kind of go with it and go with her feeling. And it ended up, you know, kind of opening her up to, you know, maybe a thought and experience that she never would have thought about, because like he ended up forgiving her, right? I mean, she ended up forgiving him because he was the one that asked for forgiveness as well. So it was just a great sort of like, hey, trust your, intuition more, because this stuff is real. Like, this stuff is really happening. And your life kind of shows you little nudges and little examples of these things that are happening in your life. You just have to really pay attention. Right, Savannah?
Absolutely. I love that story. And I think, I feel like the more, if we could all of us just listen to those little nudges a little more than sometimes we let ourselves, the world so quickly would be such a better place, because we would respond to things that are kind of in the back of our mind. I call it like a woodpecker on the brain, in the back of the mind, just kind of like tapping away, Anyway, I love intuition, and like that's actually, like, as everyone well knows, that's the core of what I focus on when I'm working with people, is to support themselves from leading from intuition. So hearing that story just like reinforces and makes me even more excited about what I do and why I do it. So let's go a little bit deeper and get real with ourselves now, and begin to move forward with some of these qualities that are in ourselves and in other women. So I want to ask some questions. I want to ask some questions that I would love for people to, again, comment below. And this is really, as I said at the beginning, like, this is really an interactive conversation. Like, Teany and I are sharing our thoughts, our feelings, our opinions about all of this as a subject. But this is really also like your opportunity to like share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions, because this is an exploration. So I want you to consider, what are the typical phrases you hear of self-hate or self-judgment in your head, or that are being reinforced or tapped into by the media? So things maybe like, I don't know, like, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not a good enough mother, or I'm not a good enough friend, or I'm not making enough money, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm not giving enough. Like, there's a lot about not being enough in this, and I think there's a reason for that. A lot of people have that going on in the back of their mind. And these are things that might be playing off what you already feel. So just do share, because trust me, you're not alone in this. Every single thing that apart from not being a good enough mother, because I'm not a mother, but every single thing that I've shared there, I can relate to, and I've definitely said to myself multiple times over the years, and I'm sure, Teany, you've probably had some similar experiences with that one.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So we know that those are the phrases that we can beat ourselves up, basically, with, or the thing that allows, it's like the chink in our armor that allows that warped nurture hook to like just, tap in. So it's some sort of version of how you're not enough in look, shape, or personality. And those voices present themselves often when we're in front of other women. And what I want to invite you to do is I want to invite you to observe yourself. This is something you can go away and do anytime you have a conversation with another woman. I want you to observe yourself in that conversation with the other woman, and I want you to see if any of these voices start to appear. And just witness it. Don't judge yourself, don't attack yourself, or be kind to yourself with like just witnessing the process. And then if you have enough space in your mind, I want you to ask yourself a second question. I want you to ask yourself, how can you honor the woman in front of you in that moment? How can you honor the little things in that other woman? How can you honor their feminine roles or qualities, maybe something that goes unnoticed normally that they do? For example, like maybe the woman in front of you is a mother, and they don't get paid to be a mother, or they don't get paid to be the hub that connects the family. Like, how can you honor and respect and appreciate that part of her? Because being a mum is like a full-time job completely. It's a role that often goes unseen. It's a little bit like sound on a film. If it's good, if you're good at what you do, it goes unnoticed. But if it's a poor quality recording, it's the only thing that you hear. So being a mum is a full-time job, and often something that goes unseen. And many mums actually also work full-time jobs anyway. I know, Teany, you're a full-time single parent, just only respect and admiration for that, because it's phenomenal what I witness you create and do, working a full-time job and having your passion projects on the side, and also bringing up Jaden, who's just like awesome. So no, seriously, just respect, honestly. So, you know, women and mothers have this amazing role, and this job that they do is to educate and support their children to create emotional resilience and life skills. And I like to hold hope that parenthood is going to be something that will become better honoured as a job, because what shapes and encourages the minds of our next generation, and really needs to be a priority in our society with where we go next. Anyway, let's see what's been shared, and see how we're doing.
So I just shared something about, as you were talking about not being enough. I know we talked a lot about the stuff that we say to ourselves. And the two of the top things that we pretty much believe often when we're in these negative states of mind are really that we're not loved or we're not enough. And so that kind of plagues a lot of, you know, our responses, our connections, or lack of connections with people. So a lot of that is expressed in how we talk about ourselves, which is like, even saying that out loud, it kind of hurts because it's true, and we all do it, and we're not excluded either. We all have our moments. You know, coaches are not perfect either, and I think that it's not about being perfect, though. You know, it's about the steps, right? And being consistent about doing the right things. 51%, right? Just like 51%, then 52%, then, you know what I mean? Like tipping the scale in the positive direction. And I think that that's kind of where we're going. And hopefully this year, and man, at the rate that it's already begun with the Golden Globes, like, again, I can't reiterate enough how impressed I was that so much, you know, I wrote this in my Facebook. I said, you know, jokes, commentary, like stories, awards, like, were given to women that are so inspirational and are really setting the stage and really inspiring other women and in honoring other women. It was just so beautiful to see. So today, you know, we've shared a lot of that history and the beliefs that we've shared, but really this session and why we came on here was to show you how we can reconnect to each other, how we can really inspire each other, how we move forward from here. That's why we're here, right? So let's ask a couple of questions here. So how can we better support each other? You know, how do you guys think that you can start? How can we reverse this? You know, and I just wanted to throw a couple of key curse words here, because I just feel like we're really in the SHIT right now, and we're really figuring out how to get out of it. So how can we really lift each other up and begin to be the change that we want to see in this world, right? Like Gandhi said. You know, what do you guys think? How can we start moving? What kind of ideas do you guys have? And we'll wait a minute and see if anyone has any thoughts about this before we chime in here. And Kaylee gave me a thumbs up. Teany's an all-star. Thank you. I work hard.
Yes, you do. You play hard too. You're a lovely fusion of both.
I play equally hard. Y'all know that. Those who know me know.
And nurture. I'm liking the nails that you've got going on. There's some significant signs of nurture going on too.
Talking about playing hard, I was telling Savannah, I'm like, you know, sometimes when you get inspired, you just end up doing crazy things, painting your nails all different colors, and it just like it ends up making you a little happier, a little bit higher, a little bit, you know. It all helps. It all helps.
That will help.
So yes. So I just wanted to know, we're going to get started, and we're going to talk about a couple of ways that we personally have found that really work in terms of reconnecting us to ourselves, but also helping us honor each other as women. And, you know, Savannah and I, we actually haven't known each other that long, but it really felt like kismet, you know, like everything that happened and transpired slowly, you know, turned into something amazing. And we've been able to, you know, keep our friendship together. And I've had I've been able to do this, and I know you've been able to do this too with other women in your life, because, you know, it's not like, I hate to say that we work at it, but we work at it, right? It's not like a job, but it's definitely like, I make it a point to do this. I make it a point to set up the time with the people that I care about. I make it a point to connect with them, to figure out a way that we can do something together, you know, and connect somehow. So that's what we're going to talk about now. So one of the things that actually the first step really is sort of awareness and acknowledgement, right? Because we can't change what we don't acknowledge. So as Savannah was talking about, you know, not being enough and all that, part of it is becoming aware of our own personal judgments of others and ourselves, because whatever we really put out in the world is really how we think of ourselves most oftentimes. So we really have to, you know, whatever we're saying to someone else, just put a mirror to your face at that moment and say, where in you have you not accepted this particular thing about yourself, right? And seeing where that comes from, and if it's true, and reframing it to really get a different perspective, right? And then reversing it, right? Because once we acknowledge it, we can then say, you know, well, what is the truth about this? You know, what amazing natural and beautiful qualities do I have? And then do other women have on that same token, right? Remember that what you focus on, you're going to emphasize, and whatever you wire, whatever you highlight in your brain, you're wiring it, right? So it's the same concept. So ask yourself, you know, how can you love? How can you praise? How can you recognize, witness, and celebrate each other, right? And if you guys have ideas on this, actually, we just got a comment. Let me read it out loud. Michelle says, when you have something nice, say it, say it. Compliment each other, show support. Whenever I see another female who inspires me with fashion or their intellect, or have a great crafting idea, etc., I tell them, yes, Michelle, yes.
All the yes to that.
Yes. And I think that we kind of hold back sometimes, right? When we're kind of like, oh, she's so awesome. Oh, I don't want to tell her that. Because then maybe it kind of downplays myself sometimes. Like people, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things I love the most is telling a woman how much I appreciate and love what I've just witnessed of her, because it gives me permission then to feel like I can get excited and I can express myself fully. I mean, very, very briefly, I mean, we met at an event that where women were actually lifting each other up, because it was 3 friends, one of whom was having a book launch, and 3 friends all like supporting each other in that process and in that launch. And I knew straight away when I first met you, Teany, because you were sat just in front of me, you just like popped out at me from you know, from the people around, and I call them my sparkly people, because they're the ones that pop out at life at me. And those are the ones where I'm like, yeah, I want to like know this person and like, you know, like just see what this is, see what we know, what this interaction can be, what this potential can have. And it gets me so excited to like say to another woman, like, yeah, let's connect and like, let's stay in touch, and, you know, then see what happens from that point. Anyway, so I'm just all about yes to that.
Yes. Oh my God, I have a really good story, but first I want to say this next part because it's related. Okay.
Okay, go on.
So, you guys are gonna love this story. Okay. So the next thing, now that we've acknowledged it, and yes, absolutely, acknowledgement, like you said, you know, figuring out who are those people that kind of ignite you and are ignited, right? And I love your term, sparkly people. Because it's so true. They really do kind of stand out like little light bulbs in a crowd, right?
Yeah, they're just sharp.
Yeah, it's so true.
High definition.
Yeah, totally. So the next piece of it is actually the appreciation and the gratitude, right? So first, self-appreciation, because again, you cannot manifest or put out into the world what you do not already feel in yourself, right? So make a list of all the things that you do and move into a deep feeling of gratitude about each one, right? Like one of the things that I like to do is just at night or even in the morning, right? Wake up and say all the things that I'm super grateful for. And then they include things about myself too, things that I've done or I've manifested or whatever the case is, right? We need to make that a daily practice and really set that in our brains and in our bodies and in our spirit, right? And review that so that you can embody it more and more. So look at how you can appreciate at least one other woman a day. how they support you, or for anything that they've, really contributed to your life. It's important to know that we get to do these things, right? We don't have to. We live in a world that's free-ish. Free-ish right now. We do have a lot of freedoms. I can't say we have them all, but we do have so many freedoms. So we need to take advantage of those things, And you have the choice, to be like a couch potato at home, or the privilege to embody all the roles that you desire, right? I can be a barrister or a barista at, Starbucks, or I can, work for a high-end, design company, whatever that is. You have all those opportunities, and wherever there's an idea, there's a way for the universe and for you to figure out how to get it, right? So one story I wanted to just say really quickly was when I went to visit a friend of mine in Michigan, you know who you are, and we went to the supermarket to purchase some things. And I tend to notice people even when I'm walking. It's funny because my sister and I are very opposite. She doesn't notice anyone. She kind of just walks in the zone. And I'm actually usually noticing everyone and everything that's going on. So I was paying at the counter for the groceries. We were paying for the groceries. And the lady who was taking care of us, she just had this, for me, she was a sparkly person, right? And she had these beautiful, like, honey green eyes. And I couldn't take my eyes off of her. She was just, I don't know, there was something about her. She had this essence about her. And I was already in the zone because, when you feel that, whatever it is that you feel about that person, you kind of get into this energy zone, right? So when you express it, they feel it. So I mentioned it to her. I said, wow, I just have to stop you for a second because I just want to let you know that you have the most beautiful and intense eyes I've ever seen. And it's almost like she stopped and didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say. And she just thanked me and proceeded to completely mess up what she was doing. It was like the whole, like the machine suddenly wasn't working properly. And like she was fidgeting, and it's just like she couldn't handle that someone could appreciate her. And it was a fascinating thing to watch. Someone had to come and help her with the machine. And it was hilarious because the person that came to help her, I guess her boss or whatever, fixed one thing. Like she literally pushed one thing and she's like, oh, you just had this up. It was like the smallest thing and she couldn't do it. But because of that, it was just that one little thing. You just don't know how a smile, how one bit of energy can change a person, how that affects a person. You have no idea what that will bring to a person's day, a person's life, really, right?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful story. And the habit also of just making a point to appreciate the women in the world around you. The more they get appreciated, this is a movement. The more we can appreciate a woman just in a genuine way, in a way that we witness and we feel authentic about and we want to share it, like the better women will get at receiving compliments. Because it's one thing that actually we struggle with. And we spoke about this on the embodying our shades of power in the feminine. So, if you want to dig deep a little bit more into that one, you go and check out the link on that underneath this. But I love that story, Teany. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well done for saying
it. It's a fun one.
Yeah, really fun. So I just want to emphasize at this point, like the value of community and forming a community. Like I've lived in and I've worked in spiritual communities. I'm going to put them in inverted marks there. But I want to say that the best and the most real communities that I am part of are about the ones that where you put good people around you. And it's not a specific group, or it's just literally like your local community or the people that you really, really resonate with. And like a community can be as large as you want it to be, or it can be as small as starting with just 2 people. So what I want to encourage you to do is follow the feeling on how and who to form your community with, and be patient and be consistent. It's 2 things that Teany spoke about a moment ago, patience and consistency. Like it just keeps moving you forward. So form your community around people who are not only like-minded, but who also have purpose with what they're doing. Be around people who light a fire in you and who want to hold space for you. Ask yourself, who would I want to be part of my female community? Who will help me grow? Also, who will, who can I share my victories with? Or like other small moments where I want to share, like, this is my little treasure of what's happened today. Like, who are your people with that? Go away and put it into practice. Like Teany was mentioning earlier, like, set up time with your close girlfriends, like prioritize having this community regularly meet and that means actually putting it in your calendar and making it happen. So yeah, that's I can't emphasize how valuable that is in terms of lifting yourself and other women up.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. So one of the things we want to do is just talk a little bit about some of our experiences, but I think we might need to skip ahead a little bit and just reference a couple of materials that we think will be really useful. So we'll talk a little bit more about community in a minute, because we want to talk to you about something that, we're super duper proud of and that we're launching. That's all about everything that we've been talking about. And we hope that you guys will appreciate it as much as we do. But there's a lot of materials out there for those of you who are inspired and ignited like we are to continue, to educate yourselves about this topic. So I'm just going to post it in Facebook right now.
Cool.
And get you guys sort of moving if you guys are interested. I'll just put the books that have inspired us. So, Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown, The No Complaining Rule from John Gordon, Pussy from Regina Thomas. I don't even know how to say. How do you say that last name?
I think it's Thomas Hauser.
Thomas Hauser. Okay.
I think.
Yes, that sounds about right. And then The Queen's Code by Alyssa Armstrong. And those are all, oh my God, amazing books. Actually, I'm about to start the Pussy book from Regina. So
God, so good.
I can't wait. Can't wait to read it.
So good. I can't be more excited about that book. I want to hear all about how you get on and how anybody gets on with that book, because that rocked my world and has rocked many other women's worlds as well since I've had a chat about it. But Teany mentioned that we want to share with you a little bit of what we feel we'd like to do if this is something that's a fit for you. But we are launching something called Ladies Lifting Ladies. And we've discussed about why women supporting each other is so important. We want to ask you if the time is right for you. Would you as ladies like to be supported? And would you like to support the ladies in your life? And you can type yes if that is the case for you. And what would your world look like if all the ladies around you honored you? We would love to have you join in the community that we're forming, and we're calling it Ladies Lifting Ladies. It's a 12-month course that we're launching this January on the 18th. We will be getting started.
Yeah, so I'm so excited about it. I mean, again, on the heels of an amazing award show that basically emphasized everything that we talked about unknowingly. It's like we set ourselves up so perfectly, and it's because it's time. It wasn't on purpose, but it's with purpose because it's time, and it's time right now. It's time right now for women to be empowered. It's a hot topic all over the media. And it's a super important topic, but it's women being empowered to lift each other up. That's really the white hot topic right now, and where we need to dive deeper and why we're here. Because if we can't empower each other, how can we expect to receive that for ourselves, right? And, this isn't a personal development course. It's actually a personal upliftment mistress mind, where you ladies out there can join each other and join us on a journey of not just friendship and camaraderie, but the connection that we've been missing, the discovery, the deep understanding of the lost art of what it means to be a woman, especially in today's masculine world.
Yeah. And in Ladies Lifting Ladies, we're going to cover one theme a month, and we're going to really dive deep into the sacred feminine topic of that one theme. So we're going to give practical examples. There's going to be fun assignments that will help you uncover and energize these qualities in yourself, whilst also creating an environment of open and honest communication and acceptance from other women who are going through this journey with us. This community forum within Ladies Lifting Ladies is basically completely private, and we encourage you to voice your thoughts and feelings and to connect to the deepest core part of yourself with respect and acknowledgement.
Absolutely. And your commitment is really only a 1 hour session a month on the latest topic. And you guys can definitely ask us. We have tons of details on our site that we're going to post later on about what all the topics are, but it's 1 hour session a month on whatever the topic is. And then you get to work on all the cool and fun assignments that we're going to give to you and your own time. And then we can share, right? And we can deep dive as much as you want, as far as you want to take it. So it's your choice how much you want to participate in the conversations by asking the community, responding to the other women in the group, engaging us, the coaches, as you use it, as you use your new and refined skills, that is. So either way, we're here for you. We're here to support you. We want to grow with you and connect with you and, kind of inspire each other and promote, this new age of women empowerment.
Absolutely.
So if now feels like it's the right time for you, would you like to be supported, and would you like to support the ladies in your life? It's already happening. So I want you guys to know that we're here to present you one of the opportunities that you can continue to do that, right? Now it's the time to honor your power as the innate connector and intuitive, powerful female goddess that you always were and you're always going to be. So if you guys are interested, type yes in the comments below, because it's time, right, Savannah? It's time.
It's so time. The time is literally now for this.
Yes. So we're going to give you guys a link in the details, and we're actually going to post it. So in the video post, you'll have up to 48 hours actually to sign up before we close the doors. It's at midnight, Wednesday, the 10th. And we're looking forward to just, meeting up with you guys and sharing and connecting with you. So if anyone has any questions or any final thoughts, please post away. We'd love to hear your comments and see how we can, work together, and if, we can support you in an even better and deeper way. So feel free to comment below. Oh. All right, I think that we lost Savannah. But in any case, I appreciate you guys joining us. Hopefully Savannah will join back on just to say our goodbyes. And we look forward to working with you guys. I'm actually going to bring up the link right now for you guys so that you can see how you can reach us. Do you guys have any questions at all? There's the link. Check out our video that's on there where we talk a little bit about the topic that we've been covering today and how we can bring this forward and inspire you guys. So any questions? Savannah lost her connection, but thank you guys so much for joining us and for giving us this opportunity to share our, version of how we can support you, support women, and support the world. All right. So I look forward to hearing from you guys soon, and we'll talk to you guys really, really soon. 48 hours. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.